And welcome to Be Inspired. Today is our final episode of season 2, and wow, I am absolutely ecstatic to say that I am chatting to someone that I know, which is amazing. For season 10, that is exactly what you could want. For anyone that is new to this podcast, hello. Our aim really is to inspire creatives and anyone that decides to listen through talking about experiences and stories about our guests, really, and what they've been through. And yeah, today's guest is none other than Chirag Lobo. Hello.
Hi.
What an intro. You best live up to it.
Let's hope.
So, Chirag, first of all, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. And I'm very fortunate to have worked with you already in this industry, this weirdly wacky industry. But for anyone that may not know who you are, let's chat about you as a person and as a creative. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm from Mumbai. I'm originally from Goa, but born and raised in Mumbai. About me now in a nutshell, I've probably done a lot of a bit of theatre back home, and a couple of commercials, and because of my own experiences there with like Western cinema and like with Western directors who had come in like scouting for talents for their films, I decided that I needed to evolve as an actor, and so I applied to study in London because I've heard that British actors are the best actors, and I do believe that as well. And I was fortunate enough to study at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and I just recently graduated in 2020 last year. And yeah, so I write as well. I've got my own solo piece which is being developed and was selected for further development by the Jermyn Street Theatre. There's another play I'm working on with a very dear friend of mine and my colleague from Guildhall itself, from my year group. His name is Daniel Adeosun, and it's called The Butterflies of Life. And we recently performed it at the Ball Festival as well as at the Jermyn Street Festival, and we're hoping to stage it again very, very soon.
Amazing. Oh, that's so cool. I remember seeing it on your social media that you were putting on this show, and I was like, hang on a minute, Chirag has like written this. I was like, I didn't know you could write. I genuinely, when we were working together, I don't think that ever came up because obviously what we were doing was very like acting based.
Yeah.
But that's really cool, and sort of you've inspired me to ask a lot of questions with what you just said. But I'll start at the very beginning, which is how you got interested and into acting. Did you find that there was a moment where you sort of realized that this was what you wanted?
So basically my dad was the one who made me watch a lot of Hollywood classic films, and I started watching these films since like the age of like 4 or 5. And it was like My Fair Lady, Roman Holiday, Sound of Music, and all these films, and I really took a liking towards it. And it was in church that I did a couple of plays there, and people said I was, like I had a knack for it and everything. And I was like, whatever. And then in school, I did really well as well in my final 2 years, and I won some awards there. But I never really thought of pursuing it because, at least at that time, and to a large extent even now, the Mumbai film industry is heavily based on contacts and nepotism. So if you do know the right people, as for anywhere in the world, you will get through that door. But it was so difficult then to get through that door that I just felt like, my parents are not from the industry, so it doesn't make any sense. And, it's just like a dream. Let it go. But it was during 2000 2009 that I did this 3-month acting course with a British acting instructor who's been based in India for the past 40 years and who's responsible for teaching a lot of the great Bollywood actors like Irfan Khan, Shah Rukh Khan, Manoj Bajpayee. So I joined that course and I did really well. And he basically like pushed me forward to like pursue it. And I was like, I just did it for like as a hobby, that 3-month course. But I mean, I know what he was trying to do as well. Like he was really trying to inspire me, and I was like, fine, let's see what happens. And there was a really big film that came to look for actors, which was called The Life of Pi. And I remember going up for that. And again, I never thought of much was going to come out of it. But I started crossing each round, and eventually they even mentioned that I was like the best talent that they had in India for it. And unfortunately, when I came to meet Ang Lee and everything in Mumbai, it didn't work out. But that made me realize that, something is really there and I should pursue this. Plus, I had an ego at the time, to a certain extent, we all do, where I was like, nah, I need to make sure like I achieve this now more than ever. Like, because it was something like a dream, a 5-year-old's dream, suddenly happening. Like it's so close. And I'm like, shit, without contacts, just on my hard work, just on my talent, perseverance, that's it. And I was like, I can still do this for sure. So then I went ahead with it. But it was still on and off for me because I was still not sure. And every time I thought of like, say, like taking up a job, something from acting would pull me back up and be like, okay, there's this play. Okay, there's this commercial. Okay, this person wants to work with you. And then that's when I realized that it's also not a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. It needs to be a lifelong plan as well. So, and I've been blessed to have really supportive parents and a very supportive sister. So, I mean, what more could I ask for?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And you're absolutely right. I think perseverance, hard work, turning up, showing up and being there when you need to be they're some of the greatest attributes you can have and carry with you in this industry, most definitely. I'm really glad that you pursued it. I am very, very glad you did. For anyone that doesn't know Chirag very well, Chirag is exceptionally talented, and we worked together on a job where we were improvising a lot, and you took to it like a fish in water. You were brilliant. So you adopted that style very naturally and with a lot of ease. Anyway, I digress. I'm just boosting your ego. So you've kind of touched upon it quite a bit so far, but let's chat about the sort of differences between the arts in India from your experience and the arts in the UK, because obviously you've worked in the UK quite a few times now and you've also studied there. So what are the key differences for you, do you think?
I think the ethics is a big player. So I know there's like Bollywood has moved forward like by leaps and bounds in the past decade, right? Massively. And I know my friends who started off, say, in 2016 with me auditioning for stuff, 2015 with me auditioning for stuff. And when I came here to Guildhall, I remember a couple of them were like, don't come back. Trust me, this place is just really messed up, and you need to know the right people, this. And I was just like, it's still frustrating that it was still happening then. But when I went back to India now, and obviously I follow them as well on their social media and we keep in touch very often, like they are still working. Some of them are even creating content now for like the platforms like Disney Plus and stuff like that. So I'm like, it is opening up because the internet has opened up, and they are looking like people are now really, really desperate for, new content, new actors as well. Again, there is a door. Again, there is also the perseverance. And again, I come back to is ethics, because over here I feel it's like there are a lot of principles. Like I know that there's a lot of things that need to be fixed here as well, but the bar compared to back home is so high that I don't see that much of it as, say, people living here would see, because I've seen far worse. So this is like a massive step up. Like the fact that you'll have agents here. We don't have that back home. So it becomes a thing where you need to know the right casting directors, and you need to go through people to audition for stuff. Whereas here, if an agent has access to a casting director, they'll put you up for work, and obviously then you have the commission and everything. There's another thing where it comes to payments as well. Like you have no idea. Like I recently did a commercial for Facebook when I was in India as part of the new campaign. And it was about me and this dog. And I still remember I had to negotiate the costs of things. Whereas here, they give you a fixed cost. And I'm sure your agent will negotiate here and there, depending on who you are and everything. Yeah. But here, it goes to a point where they try to undercut you until you feel like you are dependent on them, that they are doing you a favor. So then you have to say yes. But because of everything I've been through as well here, and because I was just like so fed up, I remember telling them, like, listen, if you don't want to pay me this, please don't take me. Take someone else, you know. It'll be worth it for them. For me, it's not worth it. And thank you so much for considering me. And they ended up selecting me. And even on the shoot, like, ethics of the people there were very different. Like, here I feel like I recently did a shoot for the show called Endeavour. Okay. And everyone was so nice. Everyone was so polite. Everyone was like, you know, like connecting with each other and everything. Whereas on that set back home, people didn't really respect people who were, say, makeup artists, say, who were people who were in charge of the set, who were in charge of the food. They were just like treated like nothing. In fact, the dog was respected more. The dog was concerned, like was more of their concern rather than the people on set. And it made me realize that it also comes back to the fact that there are so many of us in India that there's so many problems as well that you tend to like switch off and you only see these other things. So long story short, that it is like ethics are really messed up, man. You don't feel like, yeah, it's really sad. And even the captain of your ship, the director, producers will behave like that, and you'll be surprised. You will be surprised.
That's really fascinating. Like, because obviously you've told me and our cast mates that we worked with recently, you told us a little bit about sort of what it's like to work in India and what the art scene is like. But I mean, to hear that, it sounds vastly different from what we know.
And even like in theatre, like here there are so many funds. Like Arts Council England is just like rolling out money to like save the arts. It's a good thing, and I'm sure people will be like, they need to do more. Great, yeah, for sure. But back home, it's not like that at all. And even then, if there is funding, people really know how to like get that funding if they're highly connected. There is this amazing theatre maker who I worked with. His name is Girish Khemani, right? And that was one of the first plays that I did like professionally. And it was called Ripples. It was about kids in a government school on the outskirts of Mumbai and how they're introduced to like language and Shakespeare and stuff like that. And it was just lovely to see how this man, Girish, who basically would say, I'm not going on holiday. So anyways, that money that I'm not going to be using on holiday, I'm going to use for this play because this is how much it means to me. Because he couldn't get funding that easily. Even paying your actors, you can't pay them more than £10 a show. Some people get paid £5 a show. You don't even get paid for rehearsals because no one is funding you. Because people are not going to spend that much money, say £3 to watch a show, because they'll rather spend the £3 or £2 to watch a film in a theatre. So over here, the arts is like up there. But it struggles in India, and theatre struggles as well. It's not to say people are not making great theatre. There's some amazing theatre happening across the country, not just Mumbai, everywhere, the Northeast, down South. It's amazing. It's just that it's not being encouraged enough. It's not a profession which is respected.
Yeah. Do you think that it's maybe not as accessible to anyone as it is over here? What I mean by that is, so say, for example, a working class family in India, would you say that theatre and film is accessible to people like them?
I don't think so at all. So it's not only just working class, but it depends on gender, it depends on your religion, it depends on your caste, it depends on the color of your skin. There's so many factors that play a part. And see, if you're gonna do theatre, which is not paying you for your rehearsals for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, how are you going to pay for your rent? How are you going to support your family?
Yeah.
How are you going to support your parents? Like, there's so many things that come up. Then on top of that, to know the right people as well to get through that door, because you don't have agents, because casting directors don't know you, because directors don't know you. So what are you going to do? It's a risk. It's a massive risk. So people end up going for jobs or professions which are guaranteed to give you some form of success. And even that has its own difficulties to get into, whether it's the universities who won't accept such students, or right from grassroots, just like to have the access to the right form of education to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or whatever, So then people end up taking up other jobs where it's like family jobs or what they feel their caste is supposed to do, or like their dreams are like narrowed. But there are people obviously who do dream. And in fact, and this may sound very like dramatic and cheesy, but seeing people still persevere there in spite of how difficult their circumstances are, you have to really introspect and be like, is this worth complaining for, when you can see other people still making the most of it?
Yeah. That's
how I look at things. It's not like to say your problems are not valid, but that's how I look at things to be inspired. Like, inspiration is everywhere around you. But coming back to what you're saying, like it is not accessible. It's not easily accessible at all.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part. But some of the greatest actors who are not coming from like film backgrounds, or who don't have family members in the film industry, have come like from nowhere, because they've seen life, they've experienced life, and they've kept at it for a long time.
Yeah. I think that's the best bit of advice anyone listening can take away from this, is if you want it, you have to stick at it. Absolutely. It doesn't matter where you're from, but yeah, it's really interesting to chat about that, because I'm from a working class family in the UK, and I'm very fortunate because my mum has not only worked in a theatre for 22 years, so most of my life, but there are options within Manchester especially to see theatre for like a low cost, or there's schemes for young people, or low income households. So it's just really interesting to sort of explore the differences. But you touched upon the fact that you don't have agents in India, and I kind of wanted to talk about that, because it just made me think, gosh, you really have to have the gift of the gab, so to speak. You have to, like, you learn how to negotiate for yourself, and in a way, I imagine that's quite valuable to you then coming over to the UK. I use you as an example because you've then come to train here.
Yeah.
Because you have that confidence in being able to approach casting directors or whoever it is that you want to work with. And I feel that, especially in the UK, when I was at drama school, it was always like, oh my God, how do we approach this huge casting director? Or how do we approach this director that we really want to work with? And I think that is definitely probably a plus for you, having that sort of past experience of being able to negotiate and that forthright nature of going, hi, I want to audition for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, go.
No, it's all right.
I think now slowly there are agents or managers coming into play, because the friends that I mentioned that I started off with, they have got like managers who now handle their budgets. But I don't think you can get a manager just like that. But there are some people who decide to to be the agent of sorts by putting by letting you know, like, hey, there's this audition for this commercial, go for it. And obviously if you do end up getting it, then they'll take a cut. But it's not really like the agents here trying to build your career and, trying to get you through the right doors, not just putting you up for like any random thing. But I think one thing that I struggled with, and I only realized much later because I learned from my friends, was that you need to be shameless. You need to be able to not second guess yourself, but put yourself out there no matter what. And I think a lot of smart people, that's actually a very stupid thing to say, but I think a lot of people who are really gifted tend to second guess themselves. And whereas I feel a lot of people who are like not as gifted are making like massive strides in their career because they're just putting themselves out there. And that's a big player. Because when you need to show up, then you're showing up. Whether it's to talk to a casting director, whether it's to talk to another agent, whether it's talking to other creatives, you have to be able to, show up at those points. And yeah, I mean, the ideal luxury is that you do get recognized for your work and people call you because of your work. Everybody wants that. But I don't think that's the rule for any industry. You need to be able to also have those conversations.
Yeah.
So I think I developed that because I saw my friends doing it and I saw the success it got them. And also just being in the UK. And at that time, I was in my school, I was the only brown person in the building. And for 2 years. So I realized at that time, because of my own experiences there, like the way people stereotyped Indians or South Asians, that I needed to be shameless. I needed to make them, it became a thing of I need them to respect us. I need them to treat me as an equal. I need them to believe that if I'm not as good as them, I'm probably better than them. So it became that. So in a way, maybe if I was not as shameless as that, probably I wouldn't have done as well as I did do, or I wouldn't have been probably signed by the agent that I am signed with, or anything for that. I probably would have packed my bags and gone back home after my first term. So yeah, those things, seeing the people back home and how they go about things does inspire me over here to be more front-footed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily work all the time that way over here as well, because I think y'all are also so because of everything has been kept in place. Sometimes if a person is too front-footed, it may turn across as arrogance. It may become something of this person is too pushy. So I think you need to also manage that by knowing who you're talking to. But I think treating everyone as an equal so that they don't become too big for you. Even if you're working with a very big casting director, whoever, it doesn't matter. They're just equal. They're like you, that's it. So then it doesn't become a thing. You're just going and talking to another person, your friend. So yeah.
No, definitely. I can relate to that massively. I think the more you normalize as a creative, speaking to people who perhaps are a little bit further along in their career than you, suddenly you become two human beings just having a chat, having a conversation. And that's exactly what you could want. So, I mean, your training must have been quite interesting then in the UK, because you said there for 2 years, was it? You were the only person in the building with brown skin. Yeah. So, I mean, how was that? How was your training?
For me, the training was the best 3 years of my life.
Amazing.
Best 3 years of my life, because I did more than what I expected myself to do. That's where I developed my writing skills as well. Like, I was really allowed to express myself and to even direct my own piece of theatre, which was like the first South Asian play to be staged in that school. And it was amazing. I think the only difficulties I did have was with the students in my year. And I guess when everyone starts off as well in this building, and everyone is putting it on a massive podium, that you start looking for your own tribe, right? And I mean, there obviously is going to be a majority of white students. All the white students are going to be together. But there was a point where it became a thing where even when we went for Christmas dinner the first year, all the people of color were sitting on one side of the table and all the white students were sitting on one side of the table. And I was very lucky at that time that I was part of the most diverse year in Guildhall, which happened to be 7 people of color out of 26. So that was the most diverse year at the time, 2017. And I learned a lot from the black students in my year, what to do, how to talk. And because there were a couple of things that would be said to me, and I would know in my heart that there was something wrong, but I couldn't say anything back because it didn't register yet. So it hit me on my face. And then as the week went on, it would settle down. And then I would be like, wait, there's something messed up about this. So it was a great acting course, great writing course, direction course, but also a massive crash course in what to expect from the industry over here, and how I'm supposed to talk as well, how I'm supposed to deal with those problems, and also my responsibility in terms of being a brown man in this part of the world. And also made me realize about my own privileges back home, which I've taken for granted, or things that I had not seen as well. And my own experiences there, which isolated me, and how I dealt with it there and how I'm dealing with it here. So it's been an amazing 3 years with them. Trust me, amazing 3 years, changed my life fully.
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's interesting listening to you speak about that, because I think during lockdown and with everything that's happened in that time, a lot has arisen about drama schools, about this industry, and the way we deal with essentially a diverse group of people that aren't necessarily from the UK. And I know that from my experience at LIPA, it was a very diverse group of people, but majority of those people were from the UK. So I think we've got quite a long way to go in terms of making those drama schools, those environments, as diverse and accepting as they can be. But it's amazing to hear that you had such a good 3 years and that it had such an impact on you. So let's talk about your writing as well, because you said, having gone to Guildhall, that was when you sort of discovered that you wanted to explore writing. And how did that happen? When did you start?
A very close friend of mine at the time was telling me about, she's a writer as well. She basically introduced me to writing, and she encouraged me to do it as well, which I'm very grateful for. And I realized that, so I just kept, first I was advised to just write anything, right, daily. And I didn't really keep up to it. But the first time I went back home during my time at Guildhall, which was after the second term or first year, I took some time to write there, and I realized I was feeling things very differently to what I would normally feel. So my heart was kind of open, my shield, my defenses that I had were gone. So basic things in India were affecting me deeply. And I was like, shit, man, this is a little messed up. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's difficult when you're seeing so much around you. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So you end up writing, and I ended up writing about my frustrations, and things that I was experiencing. And then slowly what happened was there was a very massive issue that happened in up north in India, where there was this young child who experienced a massive tragedy. And I won't say more because I don't know about the viewers and I don't want to trigger anyone.
Yeah.
But that made me really go into like writing a play, which I ended up staging in Guildhall, which I won. Like there was this collaborate competition where you get to work with other people from other departments in the school, and you create a piece of theatre in the theatre itself. So I wrote a play based off that, but I adapted it to like the Ramayana, but I told it from like the antagonist perspective, and I related that to what's happening in India right now. And I realized like that was like an outlet for me to kind of address the problem there, because I found out that no one was really talking about it here.
Mm-hmm.
Like for all the anger people had with things, that it was very selective outrage over here. And it was making huge news in India. I was like, why is no one talking about it here? Which is where it came into like, putting it all together to somehow address this thing. And yeah, that's how it came about. And everything that I've written about now has come out from me wanting to like address a certain issue. People could say it's political or what, I don't really care. But at the end of the day, I want people to watch something that I've written or performed or whatever and be changed by it. So that's how writing came about. Plus, I hate being dependent on like other people. So, which is why it's like I'll make my own stuff. And because you're working with such different text in drama school, you're getting an idea of different forms of structures as well. So I don't necessarily have it like in my head, like I'm going through everything, but I know it's somewhere in my blood because I studied it for 3 years.
Yeah.
It becomes like muscle memory to a certain degree. So that's how, writing came about.
Amazing. No, I massively relate to that. This idea of writing to prompt change and sort of putting the audience in a position where they have to actively listen to the piece that you've created. I know I've certainly done that in the work I've created as well. And I think it's a good place to start when it comes to writing anything, because if you want to alter someone's thought pattern or their idea of something, theatre can do that, and art as well. It can, it can really, prompt social change, I think. So that's really interesting to hear how you got into it. Amazing. Well, I'm very aware of how long we've been chatting for, and I will eventually round this up. But I've got a couple more questions.
Yeah, go for it. All the time you need. Don't worry about it.
Thanks, Chirag. So my next question would be, obviously, when you graduated, it would have been 2019, did you say?
2020.
2020. Wow. So right in the middle of a pandemic. How did you deal with that? Because it's been so challenging for everybody. But how did you deal with that? And how did you sort of stay creative in that time?
I think there's this weird thing that I feel has happened with myself, which is that I had a massive drive in me. I still do. And it was during the time of Guildhall itself that, because I was creating my own stuff and because I was so driven, when the pandemic struck, I was in a fortunate position where I was already signed, so I didn't have that worry. And I got a little worried about the fact about I couldn't go home because everything was getting shut, and I was alone in London, and I was lucky to be housed by my friends over here at Liverpool. So that was a massive blessing. So that helped me as well. to be calm and be like very composed. But I think there was this attitude in me which was like, okay, everything is shut for a bit. There are a couple of skills that I have which have not been improved on. Using time to improve those skills, my accents, developing my writing, still having my drive no matter what. Seeing other people who are like watching the Last Dance. I think that was a documentary that became like massive during that time, and it was freaking amazing to see someone like so driven, because you can still be productive in these times. And I know there are also different circumstances for different people as well, so it is different for everyone. But for me, I just kept my head down, kept my faith in God, prayed about the things that I was worried about, surrendered it, and just kept on with what I had control over. With the belief that things will open up. And things did open up for me, which is where I got that opportunity to become like a creative associate at the Jermyn Street Theatre, as well as have my solo develop. So a 15-minute piece I had in Guildhall ended up becoming an hour long. And I still remember going back into Guildhall, like very subtly when the rooms were empty, and just using one of the rooms to go and continue my writing. So I was basically hustling big time. Like even my flat over here at Whitechapel, which I was like staying on rent, like that tenancy ended. So I had to speak to the school about giving me a place to stay for like a month and a half. And they gave me one of the accommodations over in the school itself. And it was just me staying there for 1.5 months alone. So I was finding places to cook because I couldn't cook over there. So I had to go and cook at my friends' places with all my utensils and cook in like later in the nights and the evenings when everything was shut. I would go into the kitchens and cook without anyone knowing. So these are the things that just kept me like going like, nah, I'm not going to go down. I'm not going to fail. I'm going to pursue and just go through it. And of course, there are days when you're like, shit, man. Then you have to look around you and you have to be grateful and also count your blessings, because there are other people who are not as fortunate as you are in this point of time. And it's not about like, it's not like this was destined for them or anything like that. It's just that that's how life is. Life is going to throw you some curveballs, and you are allowed to feel down and you are allowed to feel low. But a season of mourning shouldn't become like years of mourning, where you get stuck. You need to move forward, as difficult as that may sound. I think but that's the only productive way of like moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier said than done for sure. And people may think I'm preaching over here, but it has worked for me in the past, and I need to keep reminding myself and I go back on that.
Yeah, no, I massively appreciate that. And you're right. One of my friends says to me, if you feel down or low or sad, whatever, you're allowed 3 days to just be, to allow it to, as you said, surrender, to how you're feeling. And then after that 3 days, you've then got to change it. So you've got to find the strength within yourself to carry on, to take the next step you need to take. It doesn't matter how big or how small that step is, but you've got to move forward. And that has stayed with me for such a while now that I try and stick with that. So, I mean, I do suffer a lot with like my mental health, but I always try and turn it around for myself, for nobody else but myself, because it's really important to do that. Like you said, you can't let a few days of feeling low turn into years and years of that. It's not healthy. It's not productive. But yeah, that's really, it's amazing to hear that you did all of that. And I'm really keen to talk about your show. I mean, I saw, so where was it in London that it was?
So this was the play that I've written with Daniel now, and it was performed as part of the World Festival at Pleasance in Islington. So it got selected for like 2 shows over there. And so basically what happened was Daniel and myself are really tight, right? Like we're really close. And there's also to a level where we can communicate with each other just with eyes. And I guess it's because we work so closely in Guildhall, and we work so closely as the other in Guildhall, because there were other people who were supportive as well, but there was a thing where as minorities, we just we had each other's backs. We could talk to each other about so many things. I was driving back from Goa with my parents and my dog Lola, and I was just driving back, and it was the end of Feb, and I'm just man, UK was going through its second wave, and I was just man, I just don't want to wait for theatres to open all that. And I know there's this time where I can write something new, and I was just I need to contact Daniel because there's a story I want to touch on, and I know he'll be passionate about it as well. And so I spoke to him about this idea. As soon as I touched Bombay, I called him up an hour later. I was listen, bro, there's this thing which I feel we can develop and we should do, and I know you're going to like it. You and I click like this. We have the same work ethic, the same drive for perfection and creating something unique. Trust me, it's going to work. And he's yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. So yeah, and we ended up writing it over Zoom because I wasn't in London at the time. We applied for places as well in terms of the Jermyn Street Festival, as well as the Wall. They came down. We wrote some more over Zoom. We met as well in person. We wrote some more. And then we would rehearse it in odd spaces. And we had Darren Sinot as well, who we still have him as well as our director. And the play is about, I don't know what I'm allowed to say yet, but actually, yeah, why not? It's about Varun and Ayo, all right, two people of color in this elite institution, and how they maneuver and go about their daily lives through it. And it's also about dealing with themes about God, friendship, their own identities, and their own struggles within that system. It's also loosely based on our own experiences. Mm-hmm. And there is an element of something that actually happened and how we had planned to have this massive meeting. So it's all building up to this big meeting that we're going to call out a lot of the issues and talk about it. And yeah, it's great fun. More than anything, the crux of it is the love that they have for each other.
Yeah.
But a bigger thing is an issue within this elite institution, not just this elite institution, but institutions across the West. It could be a building which is a theatrical building, or a school, or and a massive financial institution, or whatever, Any of these office spaces as well, which are dealing with racism and how they brush under the carpet, and how you have white people helping you with the issues or addressing the issues and they can't really get it. So it's one of those plays. And I don't want people to think who are listening, it's about race and it's about discrimination. Yeah. It's more than that. And it's a lot of fun. So we've written an hour of it. We have to add I guess a bit more to make it feasible to be staged and stuff like that. But we're getting on that towards the middle of July, and then we're going to see where things go.
Amazing. Oh, that's so cool. It sounds very relevant, which I love. And I'll be the first person to buy a ticket if it gets staged again, because I remember you messaged me being are you in London? I was like, yes. Are you going to be in London then? I was like, no. Honestly, I was devastated, really devastated. But it sounds amazing, genuinely. Amazing. So I've got one more question for you. And this is something that I ask all of our guests. Based on your experience of acting, of writing, of being in this crazy industry, what would you advise to someone who is maybe already in the industry or maybe wants to get into it for the first time?
I think that's a big question. I think for me it would be, you need to be sure about yourself first. I know that people will be like, I'm still getting to understand myself. Yeah. But you need to be sure about what you're doing. You want to be an actor, or you want to be a writer, or you're struggling with things right now. I mean, like, there are big actors who are struggling with things even now in their careers. It's going to happen. But I think it's about believing in yourself, even when other people are not believing in you, even when those audition tapes are not working out, or you're not getting the right feedback, or those theaters are not reading what you've written. It's about still believing in yourself and still pushing for more. Because even in the time when, say, you're not working, or your scripts are stuck or whatever, you can still better yourself, because this is a lifelong thing. It is not a short-term thing. They're the greatest actors. We've discovered them later on in their career. They probably even went to a drama school. Drama school is not even the be-all and end-all of being a great actor. There are some people who've gone to drama school and who have been discovered 10 years later, after coming out. Because everyone's path is different. Yeah, that's another thing. Do not even judge your success based on other people. Mm-hmm. Be inspired by them, as difficult as that may be inspired by them, and run your own race. Because if you're not running your own race, the opportunities that you have before you won't be opportunities, and you'll be thinking about someone else and you'll mess this up. Another thing as well is that the success is already happening. When you pick up that pen to write even your first draft or just an idea, that is still success, because you're building towards something. That audition is still a success. Every little thing is a success. So I think it's about just programming your mind, because I feel being an artist is probably one of the most toughest things in the world, because you don't know where you're going to get your next opportunity. Mm-hmm. You're based on your skills, and then even not on your skills, you're based on the people that you know as well. So many things out of your control. It is really tough. But if you persevere, and if you're hungry, and if you're willing to better yourself and learn from others, be inspired, and be focused on your own race, you'll be fine. And a massive thing just helped me so much is God. And I know there are probably people who don't believe in God, and that's fair, that's fine. But I found having faith when I've really felt like, man, this is bullshit, or it's not going to work out, or whatever. I've just been like, I would pray very fervently in the nights or the days and just surrender it and be like, whatever is meant to be will happen. I'm going to give my 110%. It's not my control. You handle it. That's it. That's it. And people may be like, that's ridiculous. There's not an old man over there with grey hair helping everyone. Man, woman, anyone, whoever is there is definitely going to sort you if you have faith. So yeah, it may not happen on your time, because it is not about your time. Yeah, it's going to happen though eventually. It's just about keeping at it and bettering your skills in the meantime. Long answer, I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. That was so good. It was like, here's one solution, here's another solution, and here's another solution. No, that's brilliant. And I mean, I've taken so much from this podcast, just in myself and as a creative, and I'm sure everyone listening or watching will have done the same. Thank you so much, Chirag. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Could I say one last thing? I'm so really sorry.
No.
I want to add one more point into that. You know, there's a very, very funny thing, and people may think I'm really stupid for saying this. But, we look at the current leaders that we have in the world and question them. And we're like, how can this person be in power? They are not capable at all. They're not competent at all. But you know what? They didn't second guess themselves. They believe they could do it. And the people who are competent and who are worthy second guess themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's about that, being that shameless to just still go ahead and try. You have one life, just make the most of it.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, actually. I've never thought about it like that. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Well, that is a lovely little addition. Thank you, Chirag. To everyone that's listened to this podcast and the rest of season 2, thank you so much for listening. If you're on Spotify, Anchor, or anywhere else that you get your podcasts, do follow us on there, as we do intend to bring you a season 3. That is definitely on the cards. And if you've been watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I've been Becca, your host, and of course, Chirag has been our final guest of the season. Do leave a like on the video, comment if you enjoyed. If there was any particular episodes that you enjoyed, let us know. We'd love to hear. And finally, subscribe to our channel. Loads of content goes up onto there. So yeah, keep up to date, in tune with us. And yeah, we'll see you at the next one. Thank you again, Chirag.
Thank you so much for having me.